Okay, we're recording Tyranny Busters for May 6, 2013. And we got the answer here, folks. Don't you get tired about people telling you they got the answer and they don't have the answer? Well, I get tired of that. And people running around, only their answer was applied, everything be A-okay. Well, Tyranny Busters is about busting tyranny upon the mind of man. That's brain, mind control, by propaganda, lies, deceit, you name it. Okay, it's a very simple answer, and it's nobody to blame but yourself. Frederick Bastiat. You know Frederick Bastiat? Bastiat? Frederick Bastiat, 1850 philosopher, I guess, Frenchman, and a guy that understood liberty and understood the proper role of government. He wrote a book called The Law. And in the law, we have a caption called The Fatal Tendency of Mankind. So if you don't agree with this, then that's fine. I'd like to hear why you don't agree with it. Self-preservation and self-development are common aspirations among all people. And if everybody enjoyed the unrestricted use of his faculties and the free disposition of the fruits of his labor, social progress would be ceaseless, uninterrupted, and unfailing. But there is also another tendency that's common among people. When they can, they wish to live and prosper at the expense of others. This is no rash accusation, nor does it come from a gloomy and uncharitable nature, or gloomy, uncharitable spirit. The annals of history bear witness to the truth of it. The incessant wars, mass migrations, religious persecutions, universal slavery, dishonesty in commerce, and monopolies. The fatal desire has its origin in the very nature of man, in that primitive, universal, and insuppressible instinct that impels him to satisfy his desires with the least possible pain. Property and plunder. Next caption. Man can live and satisfy his wants by ceaseless labor, by the ceaseless application of his faculties to natural resources. This process is the origin of property. But it's also true that man may live and satisfy his wants by seizing and consuming the products of the labor of others. This process is the origin of plunder. Now, since man is naturally inclined to avoid pain, and since labor is pain in itself, it follows that men will resort to plunder whenever plunder is easier than work. History shows this quite clearly, and under these conditions, neither religion nor morality can stop it. When then does plunder stop? It stops when it becomes more painful and more dangerous than labor. It is evident then that the proper purpose of the law is to use the power of its collective force to stop this fatal tendency to plunder instead of to work. All the measures of the law should protect property and punish plunder. But generally, the law is made by one man or one class of men. And since law cannot operate without the sanction and support of a dominating force, this force must be entrusted to those who make the law, or make the laws. This fact, combined with the fatal tendency that exists in the heart of man to satisfy his wants with the least possible effort, explains the almost universal perversion of the law. Thus, it's easy to understand how law, instead of checking injustice, becomes the invincible weapon of injustice. It's easy to understand why the law is used by the legislator to destroy, in varying degrees, among the rest of the people, their personal independence by slavery, their liberty by oppression, and their property by plunder. This is done for the benefit of the persons who make the law, and in proportion to the power he holds. So that's just a small section out of the book, The Law. But the essence of it, it talks about man will live by plundering when it's easier than laboring. And when he can get in and make the laws, he'll set the laws up to benefit himself, of the law as plunder, instead of what it's supposed to do is deal with those who plunder others. And there's something I want to get back to if I can find this here. The law used by the legislator to destroy in varying degrees among the rest of the people their personal independence by slavery and their liberty by oppression and their property by plunder. Well, all of that is a form of plunder. Your independence doesn't belong to somebody else. That belongs to you. Government officials plundering that. Your liberty being plundered by the government officials. And your property being plundered by them as well. Now guess what? Rooted in this problem is the essence of why this really becomes a problem. And it becomes a problem because when the law does all of these things, it violates your liberty in all those instances. It violates your right. Well, guess what? That same tendency that people have to violate others is the same tendency that keeps you from stopping them. And that is, you don't want to labor. You don't want to pay a price. You don't want to pay for your liberty, for your rights. That's too hard to do. You rather get someone else to do that for you. You rather somebody else pay the price for your liberty. And so thus, you want liberty at the expense of somebody else. You don't want to live, you don't want to get your liberty by laboring for it. You want it to be paid for by at the price of somebody else. And therein lies the root of the whole problem here. Wanting to live at the expense of someone else, wanting your liberty to be paid for at the expense of somebody else. And then people ask, well, I understand about, paying my rent and getting my food, but isn't liberty something that's just supposed to happen? No, your life, it happens, but you got to sustain it. Your happiness, it happens, but you got to sustain it. Your liberty, it happens, but you got to sustain it, because tyranny will choke it out. Those who want to live at the expense of others will do so. And if you have that attitude when it comes to your rights, guess what? It's not going to work. Everybody's sitting around expecting that their rights to maintain themselves and expecting everybody else to pay the price. It's the same thing that will happen with your survival on these other things too as well. If people aren't going to be paying the price, everybody's going to be sitting around wanting the price paid for by someone else. You just want to be a plunderer. And you're not going to have your liberty. Liberty is the oxygen for your happiness and for your life, and you're going to lose it all. And it's not somebody else's fault. It's yours. Thank you.